958 days ago, Doug Hubbard began his coaching career. 5 decades later, it ends at Holston. We're going to talk about that story and a whole lot more on our playoff edition. Welcome to episode 4.10. As usual, our friend and comrade, Coach Tester. Yeah, he has hid again, but he's got a playoff game, so that's where he's at. All right, up close and personal this evening. Here, as you can tell, the camera angle's a little bit different. Before we get started,
I think I went undefeated last week.
Yeah, you did pretty good.
I didn't miss a one.
Did pretty good. I missed at least one, I know.
Y'all missed two.
But we will get around talking about that, and as well as in our Big Talk segment, we're going to talk about Coach Hubbard and another big coaching change throughout Virginia that everybody's talking about. Before we get started, I'd like to mention our sponsors real quick: Buchanan Therapy Services, True Point Bank, Southern Gap Outdoor Adventures, Grundy Auto Sales, the Patriot Outpost, Buchanan General Hospital, and Bellacino's in Grundy, Virginia. All right, let's go straight to our playoff recap, and we're going to pick up with a game that was played Saturday. Twin Springs 36, Eastside 13. About what we expected, maybe not as close as I thought it would be a little closer.
No. Twin Springs, they're the hottest team right now.
Yeah, they're hot.
There's
no doubt about it.
They roll off some big wins and some putting up a lot of points.
Recap of the game: Mason Elliott had 4 receptions for 95 yards for the Titans to lead them to the first round playoff win against Eastside. What was interesting, it was the first time these two teams met. Ryan Horn had a ton of yardage, and Coach Warner figured that Eastside would be focusing on him, and they did. He only had 73 yards rushing in this game, but Twin Springs had some other things in mind for this game, and the McCoy kid had a heck of a game, had 87 yards rushing as well. He forced a big fumble and returned it for a 55-yard touchdown, and that fumble recovery for a touchdown probably was the game-breaking play. Changed everything, and that's
to pull them away.
Yeah, it put Twin Springs up 16-7 in what was at that time.
And Twin Springs, like you said, they have 2 or 3 weapons.
Oh yeah, they don't just
come
run
at you with 2 or 3 different things.
Well, this game is a perfect example because, like I said, the Horn kid tore Eastside up last time they played, and I know Eastside was probably waiting on that, but he got this game as well, but not as many. Twin Springs did a good job of distributing the ball to some other people, but that fumble return was the big play that changed the outcome of this game. Right before halftime, Eastside got its only score on a halfback pass. So Eastside will pack it up, go home, and Twin Springs will continue to play, and they've got a big game coming up against PH, and let's go to that game and talk about it real quick. Patrick Henry 35, Twin Valley 12. I was there at the game. Connor Beeson had a heck of a game for the Rebels, 203 yards rushing on 22 carries. And it seemed like, if you look at the numbers here, it was almost 8 or 9 yards a pop. Every time he grabbed the ball,
I watched it on my phone on NFHS, and, Twin Valley hung around, but they were just, I couldn't tell by watching on my phone, was they running the midline? Was it
they did.
Right up in, they were just going right at him.
Yeah.
Instead of trying anything fancy.
nothing fancy at all.
Coach Padgett came in, lined up, and just run straight at them.
Yep. And Twin Valley wasn't able to stop it consistently. Twin Valley made them earn everything they got.
They did.
They didn't break the big long plays or anything like that, but it was just methodical, 6 or 8 yards pop.
Just wore them down.
Yeah.
Running right at somebody for 4 quarters.
Early on at 14-12, going into halftime, Twin Valley was answering.
Yes.
They was moving the ball. PH had an answer for Jacob Cooper. They were not going to let him break a long one. Now, he ran the ball well, had 80-some yards rushing, but he did not break that big.
But that wasn't his norm of what he's been having the last 3 games.
No, and they, after those 3 games, I'm sure he was definitely on their radar. Interesting thing occurred during that game early in the first half. Twin Valley scored on a 2-point conversion. One official said that the ball came out of the running back's hand before he crossed the line. Another official said that it was good. It appeared that they were going to call it no good. And then just a few seconds later, they're having a conference. They're calling it good. And for the first time, I've never seen this. They actually replayed.
Redo.
Yeah, they did a redo.
Redo. Like you do in the backyard.
Yeah.
Redo it.
Backyard redo. There you go. I've never seen that happen. Myself as a coach, I would have, I probably would have made the officials made the call.
Either yes or no.
Yeah. But in a lot of ways, and I do respect the fact that they didn't want to
make the wrong
call. I do respect that. But at the same time, I've never seen it.
And if they get it, it's tie ball game at halftime.
Yeah. And I ain't gonna say that it would have changed the outcome because PH scored 21 points second half. Twin Valley didn't, but Twin Valley was in a situation. It was 28 to 12. They got the ball down to the 1 yard line and turned it over on downs. Had they scored there,
that 2 points could have been big.
Yeah, and 5 minutes to go in the game, you're looking at a 28-20 ball game. Twin Valley would have probably kicked an onside kick or tried to help. They possibly could have had a chance. But instead of sticking it in there, they turn it over on downs, and eventually PH gets another insurance touchdown, if you will, 35-12. Good season for Twin Valley.
Oh, great season for Twin Valley. And, the number of games going to play, if this had to be the last season or if they don't get enough next year or, just the number game, great way to go out.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. They started football on that side of the mountain back in '92, and I remember that first season. It was a 1-9 season. The only game Whitewood got was against Council, and after all those years, 20-some years, you're sitting here looking at
a school record in wins with 7.
Yep. So if it's the end of Twin Valley football, we hope it's not. But if it is, it was a fitting tribute and way to go.
But having the season they had this year should get a lot of kids involved and ready to go, and that might get a few out.
Yeah, create some enthusiasm because there was a good crowd that followed them. That's.
But you better hope there's a Cooper kid in that crowd.
Absolutely, yeah, at least one more likely. All right, well, that was the 2 games on that side. Grundy 56, Chilhowie 37.
Well, I've told you since week 2, or when I don't know when it was. We'll rewind the tape, didn't I? I called this.
Yeah, I'll say
after I watched them.
He told us
after
so.
I watched them play Blacksburg. It's not because Blacksburg's a 4A school. Blacksburg is not a 4A type football team.
No,
but they were a good single A team.
Single A squad. Yeah.
A good single A team, and Grundy beat them and played well. And they're capable of winning the region championship this year.
And behind the legs of Ian Scammell if they do it. Because if he's not there,
guaranteed,
295 yards rushing.
4 touchdowns again.
32 attempts, workhorse. 4 touchdowns. It's a routine thing.
Well, I don't care if you're running against running it 40 times a ball game.
Right. That's true. That's a fact. Chilhowie was led by Chase Lewis, who had a pretty good game, 102 yards rushing on 16 carries.
Grundy need every one of them 60 points.
Yeah, they needed them all. Well, but Grundy hung 40 on Chilhowie at halftime, 40-22, and they're not doing this passing the football.
No, they know exactly what's coming, and Chilhowie couldn't stop it.
Now Grundy's going to run 4 plays, maybe 3. It depends on what mood they're in.
And they might go in a different formation, but run that same play.
Yeah. And you just got to stop it, which is
they can't stop it. Nobody stopped it but Honaker.
And how they did it, I'd like to know, wouldn't you? Yeah. Somebody needs to call Coach Doug Hubbard up and see what was happening there. All right. But Grundy had a total of 482 yards rushing on the night, and if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So hats off to Grundy as they advance. And they got a big game going against the next team we're going to talk about here, the undefeated Holston.
Well, they didn't lose a beat from last year.
Holston Cavaliers. Holston 42, Honaker 7. And probably the big story out of this game wasn't the fact that Holston tied their single season record at 10-0, went in the playoffs and got a win. It was Coach Doug Hubbard's final game after 5 decades as being a head coach.
Well, 100 years is a longer. No, it's at 20 years.
That's
a decade.
No,
what is it? 50?
That's a score. 20 years is a score.
Okay.
Yeah.
4 score and
20. No, 50 years, 5 decades, 10 years. So, Lord help me.
So it's 25 years he coached. decades, right?
Yeah, go ahead. You're so good. You was
I'm
good,
good
man.
at math.
Yeah, you're good. Skylar Miller scored Honaker's only touchdown at the end of the game, which was a 6-yard touchdown run. Gage Keena had 100 yards rushing on just 12 carries.
I'm going to give a shout out to Max Boyd. I think he had a couple sacks in the game.
Oh, really?
Yep. Southwest Community College head basketball coach's son, Max Boyd, 2 sacks.
2 sacks. Good
Unless
for him.
if they sent me them clips that was from sometime else.
They could just recycle them and keep saying
Maybe.
every Friday night.
But Max Boyd, 2 sacks in the game. Congratulations, Max.
All right, well, the era ends at Honaker. Holston will advance, and they've got Grundy, so it's going to be a big matchup coming up.
Like
All
I
right,
said, whoever wins that game will be region champions. I'm going to go ahead and
You're calling it.
calling it.
All right, let's take a look over at the AA side and take a look at things. We're going to start out with Graham and Lee. We pretty much everybody saw this, the writing on the wall before it happened, but hats off to Lee.
But
man.
Lee winning those 3 in a row, boys, they come along at the end.
Oh,
They
yeah.
just, I mean, a lot of teams would go into Graham and the score would be that.
And Lee's definitely turned things around.
Yes, they're playing a whole lot better.
So Coach Carroll and company over there has got things moving in the right direction for them, but they just were no match for Graham. Graham hung 62 on them at the half, 62-32 at the end of the game. That ought to tell you, Graham's seconds and thirds probably got a lot of burn there to the end. 3
Bradshaw
pick
got a lot
sixes.
of burn.
3 pick sixes for Graham.
But Lee was coming out throwing the football. I mean, you had to do something.
Well, they were throwing it. 3 things happened.
That quarterback threw 3 touchdowns.
He sure did. 3 pick sixes, and what was weird is it was 3 different players that got one. Turner Bradshaw got one. Braden Watkins and Gage Sawyers each took one to the house for the G-men. Bradshaw even returned a punt for a touchdown and had a rushing touchdown. Can you imagine that?
No.
So Graham puts it on cruise control, gets a win as we expected they would, and they advance.
Big game.
62-32, and hats off to Lee for a good season. Graham will continue playing. Here's another big one. Wise Central 43, Tazewell 14. This one was over with at halftime as well.
I tried to tell y'all that too. Y'all don't listen.
Well, Sturgill doesn't always end up with the most yards for Wise Central, but he had 134 yards rushing on 9 carries, scored 3 touchdowns for the Warriors. They had a 410 to 201 edge in rushing, total offense against the Bulldogs, who have for the most part decided to sling the ball all season. And hats off to Cassius Harris. For Tazewell, I think now he's the all-time leading single-season reception leader in the VHSL. So that kid caught 27 passes in one game, and I think 19 in another. So
Yeah.
good for him. But Tazewell was no match for them. Wise led this game 43-0 at the half.
That was in the trenches.
Yeah. Well, the second straight year. What's that?
Breaking news.
Breaking news. Second straight year, Wise sends Tazewell home. Tester act like he was scared to death.
Yeah,
And,
I would too.
Tazewell gets a couple of touchdowns at the end of the game, not enough. Wise Central 43, Tazewell 14. Wise playing pretty well right now. Next, this one wasn't much. Wasn't much. It was a pretty good game at the half, and it blew wide open in the second half. That's Union 62, Virginia High 27.
And if I'm not mistaken, it was 21-21 at halftime.
Yeah, Virginia High was game.
And they were winning at one
Yeah,
time.
at one point they were. The big story of this game is, of course, Xavier Lomax, 6 touchdowns.
Yeah, he had an okay game.
Yeah, he played all right. He had 440 yards rushing on 38 carries. Sounded like he was playing for Grundy there when he was
that's
carrying
right.
the ball. 51-yard touchdown run, a 2-yard touchdown run, a 45, a 7, a 37, and a 9-yard touchdown run. 440 total yards for Lomax. But the big story coming out of this game is probably the fiery halftime speech, evidently, that was delivered to the Union Bears, because the game goes in 21-all. They come back out and have a 21-point third period and a 20-point fourth period, and Virginia High.
Go home.
Yeah, Virginia High was held to 6 points in the
I bet
second
it was
half.
one of them Tom Turner speeches.
It could have very well been. So evidently whatever happened, but Union this is going to bite them if they don't put together 4 good quarters going into this next game.
Oh yeah, next game they have to play good.
Yeah.
But boys, if anybody has Graham's number, it's the Union Bears.
Yeah, hats off to Virginia High on a very good season.
Great
Coach
season.
Patterson and everything.
100 times better than last year.
I think they're going to have to beef up, get a little bit stronger from what I'm hearing, in the trenches and stuff, because ultimately
that's where it's won in that league.
Yep, sure is. All right, next in our last game to cover here is Ridgeview 29, Richlands 28. This was a thriller this weekend.
Boys, Richlands has been known to get beat on the last second touchdown before in the playoffs, ain't it?
Yeah.
Timer
12?
I don't know.
Brandon Beavers, listen to this. So Brandon Beavers catches a 6-yard touchdown, a walk-off is what we'll call it, against Ridgeview at the buzzer at Ernie Hicks. But boy, what happened in the last minute or so of that ball game was epic. Richlands, the Wolfpack went up 23-22 on a 26-yard touchdown pass to Beavers, and it was like a minute 20 to go in the ball game, and they're up 1. It looks like the game is over. They kick off to Richlands, and the last time Sage Webb touches the ball,
it goes
as a high school
91
football player
yards.
takes it to the house, 90 yards. All of a sudden, Richlands is up. The 2-point conversion attempt fails, so Richlands has a 28-23 lead. And then over the course of the next 65 seconds, we get an 80-yard drive from Ridgeview. There was 2 or 3 Richlands penalties thrown in there. And the next thing you know, they hit that touchdown pass at the horn there to end Richlands' season and to advance into the playoffs. Now, you go back, there was something that happened earlier in the fourth quarter in this ball game that a lot of people are still talking about. Richlands stopped Ridgeview at basically the 1-foot line. And if I'm not mistaken, Ridgeview actually caught a pass, and the officials determined that the player caught the pass, but he didn't break the goal line. And so Richlands took the possession of the ball at about the 6-inch line. And the next play, they got a safety on him. And, that 2 points.
But it was better than if they did score and get to 7 or the 6. I mean, you can't, getting the ball on the inch line, it's just tough. Well, but the 2 points won them the ball game.
Yeah. Well, Cody Deal, I think, was the player for Ridgeview that got the sack tied Webb up in the end zone for the safety. And so, boy, a thriller over there. And probably so Ridgeview advances, but the next big story is Coach Tarter says he will be back next year.
Yeah, I got confirmation on that over at Richlands. I refereed a basketball game over there, and they said he will return.
Well, all right, there you go. All right, so that includes all
the coaching rumors.
Yeah, although go ahead and get rid of them. So that includes,
I don't know. Fuente got fired today, so
we got to talk about that here in a second. That is true. You never know.
He might go to the Big R.
I don't know if he can handle it. You think he could? All right, so that includes all of our game recap. We'd like to thank Buchanan Therapy Services. We'll get that right in a second. Thank them. Now our player of the True Point Bank Peak Performer of the Week is Mr. Sage Webb for Richlands Blue Tornadoes. Sage going on to continue his college career now at Penn. Sage is our player of the week, and I can't think of a more fitting way to go out with your last touch. Being
going 91 yards for a touchdown.
Yeah.
He's worked hard, guys, for 4 years. Played, with Coach Mance and all that's went on, he could have easily went anywhere. The rumors was he's going to Graham or he's going to Union or he's going to here. But he stuck it out. He stayed with the Big R, had a great career. I think he had a total right at 5,700 or close to 6,000 yards of all-purpose yards. So he might have had 6,000 all-purpose yards the 4 years he was there, and that's pretty impressive. But great kid. Going to an Ivy League school, and I don't even think his daddy can spell Penn or Ivy League. So that's impressive for itself, yeah.
Well, it's one on the radar. We need to keep an eye on him and kind of see what he does moving forward.
And I think he'll play. His work ethic is there. I hope he has much success, and we will be keeping an eye on him.
All right. Well, that our True Point Bank Peak Performer of the Week, Mr. Sage Webb from Richlands High School. All right, let's go to our Big Talk real quick segment here. Brought to you by Southern Gap Outdoor Adventures. Doug Hubbard, his legacy. Doug Hubbard now finished at Honaker, 5 decades at the helm. As I indicated before, I think
20 years is a long time.
13,958 days since that first practice. And
I think he changed any over that time.
yeah, he did. I think he did a little. When I first got to Honaker in 2000, I remember the guys telling me that had been there for a long time. They said that I came during the glory days, and they didn't mean the good times. They said that he actually tried to do everything before that, and he would hardly delegate.
Didn't trust
nobody. And he actually was delegating things out, and he let us do stuff. And
Well, I was always told it was when you went over there is when they started winning.
well, it had a lot to do with it, I'm sure.
Which I also was told that they wasn't They wasn't a job that you'd lay beside us.
Yeah, it work.
Work.
I ain't afraid of work. I'll lay right down beside
That's
it.
right.
Yeah.
They said you wasn't afraid of work. You could lay right beside us.
Lay right beside, not scared of it at all. But now I enjoyed it. I can speak for the 4 years I was there. I thought Doug did an excellent job, and I've said it time and time again. The preparation on Sunday for the next week's opponent was second to none. I worked with 4 different schools and five or six different coaches.
He knew what they were going to do.
Yeah, they were well prepared.
Win, lose, them kids. Which playing them when I was at Twin Valley, the 8 years there, always knew what was coming. The kids,
yeah.
I mean, they were well prepared.
Well, hats off to Coach. We hate to see him go, but congratulations on a great career. And
you never know, guys. Here in 3 or 4 years, he might pop up somewhere and
exactly
be
right.
coaching somewhere else.
You never know.
He might not like retirement.
He may find that he's a football guy.
He loves football.
Yeah.
I mean,
He's been around it.
So who knows?
Well, the interesting thing is now will be the coaching watch to see who it is takes that position. And you have any front runners?
Oh yeah, I got plenty of front runners. I think the front runner right now could be Matt Jesse. Played there, big in the community. I think he is on the list. David Scammell.
He's in Russell County.
Yep, he's in Russell County. Would be great for the job.
And has coached
At
several
Castle,
years.
yes, and been very successful.
Yeah.
I think he would be a good hire. Not saying Matt wouldn't. Matt would be a good hire too. But the big one that is going to get thrown out there here all in the land while they're still in the playoffs is Corey Bostic.
Yeah.
I hear Corey Bostic's name's out there, which would be
Another good one.
a good one. I mean, coaching under Coach Turner. I mean, at a successful program as Union. I mean, how could you not hire him?
That's true. I don't think they're going to have they'll have plenty of qualified candidates.
Yes.
And the problem is going to be
teaching job.
Yeah, that ultimately comes down to
that's what it's going to come down to. Are you going to have a job to if you hire, let's say, a Corey Bostic or a David Scammell or a Matt Jesse that's out? You have spots for their coaches.
Yeah, right.
All right. Can you bring one? Can you bring two? That's the stuff Mr. Bush and Trevor has to look at. Are they going to hire inside, or are they going to have a job for them?
And historically,
which they're going to have a PE job. They're going to have Coach Hubbard's PE job.
Historically, Honaker, well, and then not just Honaker, Russell County in general, they don't prioritize these coaching positions from. I'm not talking about the school administration. I'm talking about from the school board. The school board's not interested in, if you've got a teaching position in whatever, that's what you need to hire that coach in or hire an outsider. They're not going to make something happen.
That's right. They're not going to say, all right, we're going to make this, all right, we're going to have a weightlifting class for another coach. I agree. No. But it's going to be interesting. And the thing is, they're going to have to hire somebody pretty quick.
Yeah.
I felt like when Coach Hubbard said this was his last year, could have started then. I know it would have been
That's true.
Distraction. But then again, if you already know who you're going to hire it.
And I got a feeling that they've
have
got
a
a
good
list
idea
of candidates right now. Yeah, and I'm sure there's some guys on staff that's probably going to be interested in that job. So it's just going to be interesting to see what happens. All right, so congratulations to Coach Doug Hubbard on a great career there at Honaker, 2 state runner-ups.
Yeah, he come out and said he was retiring at the end of the year, and Coach K had to do it.
Yeah, had to
do it. Yeah,
had to one up it.
Coach K one up to Coach Hubbard.
Well, those guys chose to retire. Justin Fuente got retired.
Yeah.
He is no longer the coach at Virginia Tech. Some people think this is a little bit interesting, especially considering there's a few games.
I have a big thing. The thing is, if you're going to do it and all the rumors out there go in, all right, it's over. Now, nobody has to. I mean, the thing with Fuente, I think he's a good coach.
I think he is too.
I mean, when he was at Memphis and these other places, offensive mind, he knew it. He put up a lot of points. Have no idea what happened at Virginia Tech. Yes, he had a bad 6 years. And
I think recruiting probably played a lot.
Recruiting was a big thing, but
and that's part of coaching.
That's
now.
right.
You can't recruit. You know?
And he probably knew this was coming, and I think he'll land somewhere else and he'll be successful and he'll be fine. But it's going to be interesting who they hire. Do they hire Shane Beamer?
I don't think they do.
I don't either. Yeah. My guy.
Coastal.
Nope. My guy is right up the road from him, and he puts up a lot of points.
Liberty.
Hugh Freeze at Liberty University.
That would be interesting. That'd be a good.
That's who. But the Coastal cat. I mean, why not? Yeah. So.
Could be. I think that he probably and Tech both. Him and Babcock sat down and probably worked this thing out. It's good for him to be able to shop now, and it's really good for Tech to go ahead and have this position open before everybody gets hired for some other job.
That's right. And there's a lot of football coaches out there looking.
Yeah.
And a lot of these coaches at these smaller schools ready to step up.
If you said one thing that you think that was Fuente's biggest weakness, what do you think it was?
Recruiting.
That's what I think. I think it was.
I think the kids like playing for him, of what I heard. I mean, but he just didn't get the kids.
He just couldn't get them in there. All right, and I think he'll go on to coach at a lower level and probably be very successful.
That's right. He might go back to Memphis.
Never know. Could go to Honaker.
Richlands.
Nope, Tartar's not quitting. Southern Gap Outdoor Adventures, big talk. Thank you for this segment. All right, up next we have our Buchanan General Hospital pigskin prognostications. And before we do that, we're going to do our Stump the CRIG. Our Stump the CRIG this week is only one question. It's only one question. And all you have to do is tell us the answer. Of course, I have the answer here in front of me, and I'll give you a couple minutes or seconds or whatever it is you need to process.
I've been thinking about it all day when we were going to do our show today. I already know.
All right. This has been kept in a bank vault, actually in a mason jar in True Point Bank's bank vault under watchful armed security for the last 24 hours, delivered in a Brinks armored truck. So you haven't seen this?
No.
All right, so what is the answer to the question that I hold in this paper here?
The answer is birds of a feather flock together.
Birds of a feather flock together. I've heard my grandma say that.
Birds of a feather flock together.
Flock together. All right, let's see what the question is, or the question is, excuse me. Equilateral specimens of identical plumage habitually conjugate in close proximity.
Birds of a feather flock together.
Feather?
I can't.
Birds of equilateral specimens of identical plumage habitually conjugate in close proximity.
Them birds are flocking together. They're close.
Equilateral specimens. Specimens that are the same. Of identical plumage. Plumage is feathers.
I guess. And
habitually conjugate, get together.
That's right.
In close proximity. That goes, you can get that one right too.
Got it right on it, babe.
Right on the money. All right. Birds of a feather flock together. All right. Well, he got it. Once again, we failed to stump the CRIG, as always. All right. Let's go on into our pigskin prognostications. And we've got some games here. We're going to start in 1A. And we've got the Twin Springs Titans. And they're going to be taking on the Patrick Henry Rebels. All right, so you want to talk about this one first?
Yeah, I'm going with Twin Springs. They'll be able to stop the little midline and slow the running back down a little bit, and I think Twin Springs makes their way to the region championship.
I agree with you. I think Twin Springs wins this. I think they've got a few more weapons. They're not just, if they get PH behind or even behind the sticks, I think PH doesn't have the passing game to come back. They're not built for that. However, if PH can get a couple scores on Twin Springs, they can really chew up some clock. And I think that's what they would have to do in order to win this ball game. They have got to get ahead early and then try to make Twin Springs play catch up. If they do that, they could win. But I think Twin Springs has got too many weapons, so I'm going to say Twin Springs to the regional finals as well. Next, we've got Grundy and Holston.
I'm riding with the wave, boys. I told you back in week 2 or 3 or whenever it was, they will have a chance to win a region championship. Did I think they'd play Holston now?
No, I thought it'd be the finals.
I thought it'd be the finals. So I think Grundy comes out with the victory against Holston. Too much Ian Scammell. They keep the ball from them. Holston will score some points, but I think Grundy outscores them. But whoever wins this game will be the region champion.
All right, you heard it there, folks. I'm going to go with Holston on this one. I think Grundy's got the running game.
I'm pretty sure you went with Chill Howie last week.
I think I did. I'm going to go with Holston on this one. I think Grundy's got everything they need to win this ball game. I'm still concerned about a couple of those players being hurt and injured.
Didn't Holston barely beat Chill Howie?
Well, they did. I think Holston can't afford to get behind on Grundy for the same reason I said PH could beat Twin Springs. If you get behind on Grundy, they're going to eat the clock, and they will move the chains, and they'll beat you. But the fact this was at Holston is sitting at 11-0, I think, now. So I'm going to go with the Cavaliers on this one, but I think it's going to be like a 48-38 kind of ball game. All right. Next, we've got our 2A games, and let's go ahead and start with the big one. Graham versus Union.
I'm going with the G, man.
All right. What does Union have to do to beat them?
Lomax, 6 touchdowns and 440 yards.
We got to see a repeat here.
Yes.
Right? A heavy dose of the run game.
Heavy dose.
Of course, if you can run the ball, you always got a chance in the playoffs. I just think Graham, this is one of them games that you have a hard time picking because you know how they end every darn time you watch one of them. I think Graham has the edge in this one. And Union has had several games where they've come out flat for a quarter or two. And I ain't saying they was flat against Virginia High, but they weren't playing their game evidently because the second half they just exploded. And if they come out and do that, they're in trouble. But, if they put 4 quarters together, we're going to have another classic on our hands. But I'm going to go with Graham in this one. I do think that Graham needs to worry about those senseless penalties and a bunch of those things. I think Union has had their episode or two of that as well. This is one of those games you can't afford those costly penalties.
Well, they know what each other's going to do.
Yeah.
So.
Well, these emotional penalties and stuff, though, in big games like this, all it takes is one of them to cost a team. And I think the more disciplined team that eliminates those type of things could have the edge at the end there. But I'm going to go with Graham in this one. All right. Is that
the G, man.
You got?
Yes.
All right. Our next game is Ridgeview and Wise Central. This is a repeat from earlier in the year. Tell us what you think about this one.
Boys, Tester said they are ready. The Mountain Seven's the best district in football.
They got
Wise is playing great football right now.
They are.
Ridgeview struggled with Richlands. I'm going with Wise Central.
Of those 4 teams right now, Graham, Union, Wise, Ridgeview, I think Wise is the hottest.
They're the hottest.
I ain't saying they're the best. I'm just saying they're the hottest. And it's like eating crow for me to say that because I didn't think they'd be here. Now here I am, come down to make this decision, and nothing against Richlands. I think they played with a lot of emotion, but I think the fact that Richlands played Ridgeview that well indicates that maybe there's a little chink in the armor there. I think that Ridgeview passing game is maybe 1 year away from being very, very good. Right now it's pretty solid, but I'm going to go with Wise Central on this one. I think they're just clicking. So according to After the Whistle, we believe it's going to be Graham and Wise Central
In the finals.
in the finals.
Which I think I said that about week 2 or 3 too.
And 1A, we're saying it's you're saying it's going to be Twin Springs and Grundy. I'm saying it's going to be Twin Springs and Holston. All right. I think there's a lot of merit to what you're saying there about Grundy. I do think the winner of that game has the edge going in against whoever wins, and I think it's be Twin Springs. I think they've got the edge. All right. You have anything else?
I do not.
All right. I don't have anything. That concludes it for
Hopefully Mr. Coach Greg Tester will be back with us.
Yeah, next week we hope to recognize our Belsino's Player of the Year. So you definitely want to tune in for
We
that.
got a couple good candidates.
Yep, sure do. And we'll talk about them a little bit, break them down, and give a detail. And if at all possible, we're going to try to get these regional finals coaches maybe to call in and maybe get some words from them. So that's something you don't want to miss as well. So be sure to tune into that. Share this with everybody you know. Help us get those likes and those subscriptions up there on YouTube. It just helps out the cause. Until next time, I'm Coach Moore.
I'm Coach Krieger.